Welcome into our This Week in Missouri Politics Election Day Midweek Update, the day you've been looking for, right? Attorney General Andrew Bailey?
Yeah, it's been a long, hard ride, but we're here at the finish line, excited about where things sit. You know, we were out on the bus tour with soon-to-be Governor Mike Kehoe and
Yep.
soon-to-be First Lady of the state that is closer to Arkansas and Oklahoma than Jefferson City.
Yeah.
And those folks were fired up to get out and vote no on Amendment 3. And look, I don't know where that thing lands, but I'll tell you this. They motivated outstate Missouri to turn out.
You know what? I do know, now that you mentioned it, somebody we can talk to about that. Kelton, let's bring in Cass Bowen Anderson, who is, a lot of folks know her from radio fame. A lot of folks know her now with the V-Day Foundation. But Cass,
phone call and to just give me advice.
So it looked to me like this thing was cruising towards passing. Maybe not super. I think folks always thought maybe there was a little more support for it. You know, when the media really is into something like they are pro Amendment 3, I think sometimes it's a little bit of a mirage. But I do think the thing was on the course to passing. I've watched over the last few weeks, you put together a large group of coalitions. You've engaged folks like everybody you talked about. Primarily, though, yourself and Mike Kehoe have got on the phone and put together some resources, and you've led a ground effort. This election is probably a toss-up now, and I don't think it was when you started.
Well, I appreciate that. So really what we did on our end is we made the big media buys, right? There were a lot of people that were just organically getting out, and people who would put yard signs in their yards that maybe have never done that before. And in every corner of the state, in every tiny town to every big city, it's been incredible to see. But on our end, we had the opportunity to bring in some funding and actually use it for TV and radio and direct text, billboards, those kind of things. And I'm super proud of the campaign we were able to put together despite being outfunded 10 to 1. I mean, we didn't think we would have anything to work with to make any sort of TV buys or anything, but with the limited amount of funds we had, we were able to be very strategic and targeted in what we did. We had to rely a lot on polling. We had to rely a lot on consultants to direct those media spends, but I think we used what we had to the best of our ability. And I think it's going to show on election night. If we don't pull it off, it's not going to be for a lack of skill. It's not going to be a passion of people on the ground. It's just going to be, how it is. But we've tried our best.
I've sat up in the peanut gallery in the Senate and watched, and I'll be honest with you, the pro-life movement I've always felt is the majority of this state, but it is a majority that's very disjointed. You've run, it is sometimes a challenge to know what the pro-life community even wants. I think that whatever happens tonight, the abortion debate in this state is not over. But boy, I feel better about the pro-life cause than I felt in a long time, just seeing all these groups come together behind a united mission.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's galvanized folks, and it's galvanized folks at the grassroots level. It's what an incredible counterpunch campaign that's been run against Amendment 3 and against this onslaught of out-of-state money that's poured into the state in support of Amendment 3. But there's another piece here that I think bears mentioning. It's that the proponents of Amendment 3 have never been able to answer the argument. They have asserted that it's about abortion, and the counterpunch has always been, the counter-argument has always been, it goes so much further than abortion. You chose vague, ambiguous language in drafting this legal monstrosity in order to provide an umbrella for a parade of horribles. And the pro-Amendment 3 group has never been able to counter that argument. And on the trail, anecdotally, I'll tell you, that's some of the most persuasive argument we have as I'm engaging with folks.
So, Cass, where are some parts of the state that you feel like we can look at here? When election night in Missouri that kicks off at 7:30 tonight, John Combest and I will be joining you for all the Missouri results all night. Where can we look at in some part of the state that you're like, okay, if let's say Montgomery County, Warren County, Gasconade County, it should be at 65% or something like that. Where is some place we could look at for an early signal as to whether Amendment 3 is going to pass or fail?
I think the surrounding suburbs of St. Louis, where we've been weakest is St. Louis and Kansas City. And so we put a lot of money into the moderate Republicans up there because we know that that's the only swayable group that there really is. I mean, Democrats are going to vote yes. Hardcore Republicans, conservatives are going to vote no. It's not prudent to spend our time convincing these people of this fact. But the people that are really swayable are people who are just, middle grounders, not really engaged in politics much, people who would see a commercial saying that women are dying in parking lots due to ectopic pregnancies and feel for them, right?
Sure.
Some of these people are in our churches. And so, I mean, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people in my own church who ask me, well, Cassidy, I'm pro-life, but I work in an emergency room department, and I know that we refer to D&E abortions as abortions when it's a miscarriage or a stillbirth. So is that going to be outlawed? Are women really going to have a hard time? And I'm able to point them to the fact that Missouri's current pro-life laws do cover emergency care like that. Women in Missouri are safe now. They are. And so then they want to pull out stories like, oh, this happened in Joplin, this or that. Those are flukes. And also, I implore people to realize that if a doctor refuses to provide emergency care to a woman who is truly having a miscarriage or an ectopic pregnancy, that doctor is breaking the law. That hospital is breaking the law, not the woman. And so for them to prey upon some of these women's most tragic, vulnerable moments to try to pass abortion through all 9 months and all of the other things that come with it is heinous, and it's deceptive to the highest degree. It's the true corruption in politics.
It
So
does
I
feel
just
like that there's needed to be maybe a positive pro-life message out there for a while, regardless of tonight. Is the work you're doing going to sustain?
so that's the thing. If there's two scenarios, right? So if we lose, then there's going to be a lot of legislative battles that are going to be really in the weeds, and the public's not going to have a lot of knowledge of what's going on with that. They're kind of going to throw up their hands and think, oh, we lost and this is it. So I think what we need to do is tune the public, the average everyday person who's not in the bubble, into what's going on in the legislature. But positive hopefulness is that we pull this off, we defeat this ballot measure, but then they come back in 2 years. And what I really worry that's
Yes, my
going to happen.
question is 2 months from now when legislature kicks off, are you going to be somebody I can call and have, and you're a very positive pro-life voice, which I think we've totally lost in this state. Are you someone we can come back to 2-3 months from now, and are you still going to be doing the same work of organizing the pro-life movement?
Well, absolutely. So I work for the Vitae Foundation, and that organization to me is the only organization that's focusing on changing the culture, not just changing things legislatively. You're never going to legislate abortion out of people's hearts and minds. You're going to have to change how the culture talks about this issue, right? Because we've been desensitized to it.
Sure.
And so with the Vitae Foundation, they take a pro-woman approach. They know that if you take care of the woman who's in crisis, then babies are going to be saved.
Cass Bowen, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck tonight. We hope maybe we can grab you a little bit depending on how the results come in this evening.
I'd love that. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I tell you, I like her because I'm not pro-life because I'm mad at somebody. I'm pro-life because it's a positive message.
Yeah.
I think you can honestly say a lot of the pro-life stuff has been lost in almost a sea of anger. I like her because she kind of makes you want to be part of what she's doing.
Yeah, totally. I think it's easy in politics to get up and rail against what you're against. It is harder to broadcast a vision that inspires others to follow you. And I think that that's something that post-Dobbs, the Republican Party has really struggled with. And
do you think the party was prepared for Roe to be overturned? I never thought it would happen.
Yeah.
Never thought it seriously happened. I'm not sure we were ready.
Well, we were ready from a legislative legal standpoint.
That's
but
true.
We were not ready to win the debate. And, there are things that I have talked about since that time, and certainly on the campaign trail for the past 2 years have been talking about. Like, for instance, we can find loving homes for kids. Like, let's improve our foster care and adoption
You can
system.
speak to that personally.
As someone who's adopted kiddos, I truly believe that every kid deserves a loving home, and we can do that. I mean, that's an accomplishable goal. I can point you to hundreds of foster families right now who are dying to have children put in their home. We can find loving homes for kids. Let's take, women who have been the victims of a sexual assault, and let's wrap our arms around them. Let's have an expanded victim services for those women. Now, these are messages that resonate in places like suburban St. Louis and Jackson County that Republicans have struggled to be on point about it as this debate has unfolded.
I vividly remember standing in the lobby, the rotunda of the Supreme Court building, watching you stand up there with your wife and your children. You gave a great speech that day. You really, in all honesty, you've probably not been able to catch your breath in the last 2 years because you had to set up an office. I mean, you inherited a good office from Senator Schmidt, but you had to hire your people. You had to get them trained to how you.
But it's not just me, Scott. I think this is really a transformative moment in our state's history. And I look at incoming Governor Mike Kehoe, and you talk about inspiring people.
Yeah.
His story, his message, the way he interacts with people is truly inspiring. It has inspired me. And so to have a leadership team from the top to the bottom that's going to come in Jefferson City and is this eager and excited to work with one another, support one another, and that has existed in the past, but it's just taken on a new breath of fresh
I don't think
air.
it has. I think the camaraderie I see between Mike Kehoe and you, between you and Vivek Malik, between Vivek Malik and Mike Kehoe, between Scott Fitzpatrick and Mike Kehoe, I think, the new Lieutenant Governor David Wasinger, I think we're going to have to see, right? It would be disingenuous to say there's that cohesiveness. I've seen it. Denny Hoskins knows the Capitol very well. There is a cohesive. I've always felt like he polls better. He polls on election day better than he does in the polls. We'll see every Missouri election result all night starting at 7:30. I think we're going to kick the show off with U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt from Mar-a-Lago. I think that's what we've about got ready. Then we're going to bring you Garrett Hawkins. We're going to go to Ann Wagner. We're going to set up at the House GOP election night party. So we'll bring you tons of guests, all the election results tonight, 7:30. Myself, John Combest, Kelton's pulling what's left of his beard.